Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, councillors and officers, to tonight's council meeting. Can I firstly start that, as you're aware, we are live streaming tonight's meeting under the Local Government Good Practice Guidelines for Virtual Meetings. I do need to inform you that if technical problems are encountered by council, then we will adjourn the meeting until resolved, and if not resolved after 30 minutes, the meeting will be postponed. Present, we have councillors, Councillor Minty, Councillor Salter, Councillor Merriman and Councillor Pizzi, and myself, Councillor Ross Ebbels. So we have no apologies from councillors. Any apologies from officers, Mr. CEO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no.
No. Pecuniary interests or conflict of interest disclosures, councillors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on item 14, the Planning and Heritage Report, there are two items there to do with 118 Hesse Street, 2020 002 and 2020 005. I am chairman of the Bowling, Croquet and Tennis Association. I don't believe that I do have a conflict, but I will not be voting in respect of those matters, as we are not voting on an issue tonight, but I'll abstain from participation. I also want to take the same position in respect of matter 2020 029, which is the church hall in Stephen Street. I happen to be the chair of the finance committee of that organisation, so I also have a similar position. I'll be abstaining, but I don't believe there's any conflict, but I want to put that on record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Merriman. And I also add that, as in the past, I do have a conflict myself in the interest of 81 Nelson Road, Queenscliff, which is the item Queen C33, which also note that there's no decision pertaining to that item tonight, so therefore I will be participating in the discussion. And also, can I please also note that Council acknowledges the traditional owners of this land, the Wadawurrung people, one of some 25 clans that form part of the Kulin Nation. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connection to the land, water, culture and the community contribution they make to the life of this borough. We pay respects to their past and present elders and their emerging leaders, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Mr. Seidel, we have no leave of absence of councillors.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Public question time, public question status update. Council note that the public status update as presented as an adjunct to item 5.1, summarising the status of questions that were not fully responded to at the relevant council meetings and or were taken on notice. Public questions. Unusually we...
Would you like to formally note and ask councillors to...
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. We do have the recommendation there. Can I get someone to move it? Move Councillor Salter, seconded Councillor Merriman. All those in favour? Thank you. Public questions. Unusually we have no public questions tonight, and I do note that normally we do receive at least two public questions, one from the QCA from David Connolly and also one personal question from David Connolly. We are aware that David's been unwell, and David, who may be sitting in a hospital bed or at home, is probably watching this live streaming tonight. So if you are David, or when you watch the recording, we certainly wish you a very, very speedy recovery, and we look forward to seeing you here again soon.
Get better.
Thank you. Councillors, item 6, we have confirmation of council minutes. The recommendation is there before us, councillors. Move Councillor Salter, seconded Councillor Merriman. All those in favour? Thank you. Audit Committee meeting. A copy of the Audit Committee minutes were distributed to councillors under separate cover. Recommendation is that the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on June 9, 2020, Appendix 1, be accepted.
I'll move that.
It's moved by Councillor Merriman, seconded
Seconded by me.
Seconded Councillor Salter. Any discussion? No? All those in favour? Thank you. Item 7 is a record of Assembly of Councillors The recommendation that the record of Assembly of Councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. Can I get someone move that? Councillor Minty, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Pizzi. That constitutes being there. Okay.
I'll second it.
That's moved by Councillor Minty, seconded by Councillor Salter. All those in favour? Gentlemen, all those in favour? Thank you. Item 8, notice of motion status update. There are no motions on notice outstanding. There were no notices of motion were received. Petitions and joint letters, item 9, we have none. Councillors, we have a list here, item 10, functions attended. We have a list there of the functions attended by councillors and officers. The recommendation that the functions attended report be received. Can someone move that? Councillor Minty, seconded. Councillor Salter, any discussion? No? Thank you. So moved. Sorry, all those in favour? Thank you. Item 12, local economy, 12.1, Queenscliff Music Festival. We're welcoming the General Manager of Economic and Community Development Product Leader, Community Services, Philip Carruthers. Thank you, Philip. If you'd like to give us a discussion on the Queenscliff Music Festival, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to receive the 2019 QMF report and to formally acknowledge the valuable contribution the Queenscliff Music Festival makes to our local community. The 23rd QMF was held from 22nd to 24th of November last year. It showcased 70 acts across a 3-day program. The economic impact was significant, 7.2% increase in ticket sales on the previous year, 44% attendees stay for 2 or more nights, 71% of the attendance was female, 55% of the attendance was over the age of 45, 94% came from outside the local Geelong, Ballerine, Surf Coast regions. $4.49 million of total economic effect resulted from the festival, and $150,000 of total marketing expenditure was spent on the festival promoting Queenscliff and the region. Some issues. Noise management. There were no noise complaints received from the festival. There were no health and hygiene issues associated with it. There was a more extensive liaison done with emergency services for this year. There were a range of camping options available, which resulted in income both to the QMF and to the council. Council provided $17,000 in sponsorship for the festival. The total value of the QMF Community Benefit Scheme was around $145,000, with cash donations and payments to the value of $52,000, and physical resources to the value of about $19,000 going to various community organisations. 514 volunteers were involved in the conduct of the festival. Significantly, there was a sustainable approach to waste management, with 95% of waste generated at the event being diverted away from landfill. Reusable crockery and cutlery was used. Organics were reduced by over 1,000 kilograms from the previous year. And funds were provided, excess food was provided to Feed Me Ballerine, which was reused for the Ballerine community, for families. In conclusion, the music festival achieved another sold-out event for the 4th consecutive year, with a 7.2% increase in tickets. There was a significant contribution to the local community and the visitor economy while promoting Queenscliff through an extensive marketing campaign. The recommendation is at the bottom of page 16.
Thank you, Philip. Councillors, can I get someone who would like to move? Councillor Merriman, seconded. Councillor Pizzi. Any discussion? Yep, Councillor Merriman.
I think this again is an outstanding result. I particularly, the organising committee, led by their management group, to see this event grow the way it has and continues to grow certainly is a great plus for the Borough of Queenscliff, and we thank very much those people who are involved in managing what is now a statewide, national and maybe international in some sense event, which we're very proud to host in the Borough of Queenscliff. And we only hope that some form of activity can take place this year once issues of crowd control, etc. are resolved. But we can only but congratulate the organising committee, the volunteers who have been involved in this great activity, and it's something that holds Queenscliff in a very high regard throughout the entertainment industry and the tourist industry.
Thank you, Councillor Merriman. Councillor Salter?
So I would like to congratulate the Queenscliff Music Festival, their committee of management, their army of volunteers on a fantastic festival. They do make our community sing. But they are more than just the festival, even though they bring thousands of people here and hundreds of thousands of dollars. They spread all of their organisation and all of their joy across many other elements of our community, the Literary Festival, the Low Light Festival, the Film Festival. Without their amazing organisation, about their commitment to community, we would not be as rich as we are. So very much congratulations to them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Salter. Councillor Menti?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, I'd like to congratulate the Music Festival also for all of the things that have been said by my colleagues, particularly from an environmental point of view, and that removal of rubbish being diverted from landfill and their impact on the community being so low and giving so much is very important. I'd also like to thank them for bringing some interest and enjoyment to the residents of the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minty. I would just like to also add and thank Jeff Mutton and the board of QMF, and also Andrew, Chris and all the staff of QMF for providing our borough with such an amazing event. And I guess two of the things I've really picked out as my highlights, as Councillor Minty alluded to, was the environmental impact. Is just amazing, and certainly setting standards which we can only hope other festivals around the country and the world can uphold to as well. And also for an event, a regional rural event, to have 514 volunteers is extraordinary, and it just goes to the part of the QMF making these volunteers welcome and needed, but also the Borough of Queenscliff being a welcome place for these people to come and volunteer at is great. And as Councillor Merriman said, we hope to see them in some form later in the year. Thank you. So, councillors, we have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favour? Thank you. Item 14, Planning and Heritage. Mr. Rajaratnam.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council, before you is your monthly planning permit activity report. As you can see on page 18, there are 9 new applications that have been received in the last month. There are 21 applications currently under consideration, and 7 have been decided on since your last report. Turning to the current applications in the next table, Council, there are 3 which continue to be sticking points, if you like, for officers. They are 2017-059, 2019-065 and 2019-069. With respect to 059, we're waiting for the applicant to provide us with more information, and we wrote to them today, so I'm hoping that results in some progress. With respect to the other 2, we're really waiting for Delp and Vic Roads to come back to us. We've made several attempts to get information from them, but they haven't responded, and the intention is to escalate that with a letter from either myself or Martin to the equivalent of those organisations in order to get some progress on it. Council, I commend the report to you and look forward to implementing your resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just get someone to move and second, then we can have a discussion. Move Councillor Pizzey, seconded Councillor Salter. Any discussion or questions? No? All those in favour? And please note, Councillor Merriman abstained. Thank you. Item number 15.1, supply of electricity for contestable sites. Mr. Rajaratnam again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, this report seeks your approval to award a contract for the supply of electricity to small sites within the borough. Small sites cover approximately 37 buildings, caravan parks and infrastructure, including water pumps. The current contract is due to expire on the 30th of June 2020. Two options were investigated by officers, and the pros and cons of each of those are examined on page 28 and 30 of your report. Officers have recommended option 1, which will provide green power to 50% of the small sites within the borough. This recommendation has been made primarily because of option 2 is likely to cost council more over the life of the contract, based on modelling undertaken by officers as outlined in your report. The officer's recommendation is on page 30 of your agenda, and I look forward to implementing council's view in relation to the matter. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I wish to move an amendment to the recommendation. The amendment will read that the council supports option 2. So replace item 1AB by inserting in there the details within option 2. I still believe that the second point of the resolution remains as it is, so that the CEO has an opportunity to show his strength in negotiation. In moving this, I think it's consistent with two aspects.
Sorry, Mr. What we might do, I'll just get someone to second it, then we can
Thank
have
you.
a discussion. So,
I'd like to second it.
Yep.
But before we move further, can I just clarify whether this is in fact an amendment or actually a new motion?
It's an amendment to the existing motion.
Yeah, through, it's a new motion.
it's a new motion.
Yeah.
It's a new motion.
So Councillor Merriman's moved the motion, which is the aspect of option 2 and point 2 of the
It is a
recommendation.
new motion.
It's technically a new motion.
I disagree with the ruling. To me, there's a motion there which I wish to amend,
That, through you, Mr.
and
Mayor,
you
the
might
motion
say that it's a
hasn't been,
negative.
Sorry.
the motion hasn't been put yet. You're putting the motion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not,
okay,
yeah.
in putting the motion, I'm amending what the recommendation is.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So let's cover it that way.
Okay. Councillor Salter, you're happy with that? Yep.
Um,
Discussion, Councillor Merriman?
I'll just clarify that. In moving the motion, I wish to amend part of that motion,
Yep.
and I've detailed that. In speaking to it, I very much admire the work done by the engineer, the project engineer in this matter. He's produced for us a document which is a confidential document detailing all of the work that he's done and that's been done to look at these options. One of the reasons that I commend the engineer for the work that he's done, not only the volume of work but the clarity of it, is that I would hope that on every occasion engineers and officers take the view of looking at what's the best interest in respect of money. And that's been one of the guiding lights that this engineer has carried out and performed his duty correctly. However, last October, you, Mayor, in your former role as councillor and before you became Mayor, gave the council and the citizens of this great borough a detailed outline of the amount of activity that we had taken to ensure that we were honouring the question of climate change and the question of going towards a green village. So it's in that vein and consistent with the material that you put last October and subsequent resolutions that we've passed in respect of ensuring that this resolution, as I've now amended it, goes to 100%, supplying 100% green power for all council small tariff sites. And I think to move to that position of 100% rather than 50% is consistent with our progress that we made last October and the progress we've made since then. And I in no way, in amending what the officer has put forward, the engineer, critical of him. I can commend him on the work that he's done, but in the interest of consistent with our policy, not an engineering policy, but our policy in respect of climate change and the question of where we're going as a borough, I have moved the amendment so that it is 100% going towards council small terrace sites having green power.
Thank you, Councillor Merriman. Any other discussion? Councillor Salter?
So I would like to support Councillor Merriman in the comments that he has just made. It is very important, in fact, that we go towards 100% green power, which is outlined in option 2. In December, the council voted to declare a climate crisis. We cannot not be moving towards doing something about that if we do not go towards 100% green power. It is as simple as that. In this small time frame until the 1st of July 2021, it will cost us a small amount of money extra, but it's more important for the environment, for our part of the world, that we move towards green power and that we role model what is required to the rest of our region, the rest of our community, and there it is. That's our part of the world.
Thanks to Councillor Salter. Any further discussion? Councillor Minty, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I find myself agreeing with Councillor Merriman on this particular amendment, and I'd like to thank him very much for making the amendment, and of course Councillor Salter for supporting it. I would also like to thank the officer for the work, because it's given us a very clear idea of the process that he has gone through, and of course the savings that he identified in this bulk buy. He's also been able to identify some things in the future where we, of course, are going to further mitigate our emissions in this area. So I think this is a good step. As others have said, the amount of money additional is minor in the greater scheme of things, and it does give us that breathing space to make those other changes within the borough that will assist us to meet our target of zero emissions for council, and to gives us time to develop the resident program and plan in the future. I can only commend everybody to this option 2 and 100% green power. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Merriman. I'll just add, maybe highlight on page 25, it does talk about the PPA process, which is the power purchase agreement. The borough, along with 40 other councils led by Darebin, will be negotiating to get the best value for green power as well. So yes, it's great that we're going 100% renewable in regard to power, but also this will enable us to actually get the best value for money as well in that process. So thank you very much, councillors, and again thank you to all the officers concerned. We do have a mover and a seconder. If there's no more discussion, all those in favour? Aye. Oh, thank you very much. That's carried. Item 15.2, Community Satisfaction Survey results. Mr Parker, Coordinator Community Engagement and Communications. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I'm sure you are all very familiar with the Community Satisfaction Survey by now, but just to recap, it is a survey that is undertaken by every council in Victoria, as administered by the Victorian Government. It includes a random sample of 400 of our ratepayers and residents being called, and those ratepayers and residents are asked to rank council's performance on a range of metrics. These metrics are general in some areas, so overall performance, and in other areas they relate to individual service areas. Council recently received the results of this survey, and they are attached as an appendix to this report. This year's results show a substantial improvement in community sentiment towards council, with a number of core metrics showing record improvements in positive perception. One metric in particular, overall council direction, saw an index score improvement of 18 points, which is the largest single year increase of any core metric since council began participating in the survey. This indicates residents feel significantly more confident about the direction council is heading compared to 12 months ago, and that the changes council has made to its operations and agenda align more closely with community expectations. Also noticeable was the substantial increase in sentiment towards council's community consultation, which increased by 8 index points from last year. This is council's largest one-year increase ever recorded in this category, and is its best result since 2015. It's also reversed a 5-year decline in results for this area. This is also alongside a 5-point improvement in making community decisions, which is another metric. Council's community engagement and communications activities saw the most significant improvement in community sentiment across any of these core service areas, which strongly indicates that the changes that council has made to the way it communicates and engages with the community have been well received. Among the individual service areas that were assessed, almost all of the assessed service areas performed at or above state averages for local governments. Council reported increases of 3 or more points in community sentiment in 7 service areas, which are listed in the report, and outperformed the state average by 5 points or more in 8 service areas, which are also listed in the report. Overall, council's performance is rated higher than most councils in the majority of service areas, which is certainly a good sign when it comes to those individual program areas as well. While the large majority of the report is very good news for council, there was one service area that saw a fall that was statistically significant, so outside that margin of error. And while it still recorded an above average result for small rural councils, sentiment towards building and planning permits fell by 4 index points. And communications staff have already begun discussing strategies with the planning team to improve this result over the next 12 months. Responses are also given in the area of how residents want to hear from us, and have shown a clear trend in this area towards a preference for digital communication since 2012. And this year's results, interestingly, are the first in which more than half of all respondents preferred email, social media or website information to other printed materials. This is an interesting metric, and it shows that some of the additional effort that we've placed on making sure that we invest more heavily in these communications areas has been a valuable addition, and certainly something we'll continue to do going forward. Although the results in this year's survey are very encouraging, it's always nice to get good news, they should be seen as a step in the right direction rather than an end result in and of themselves. So officers are using these results to positively assess the value of strategic improvements and to identify next steps. Some of the things we are looking at are continued expansion of council's digital communications, improved online service offerings, and opportunities to further expand high-level consultation, similar to what we did with the budget consultation process this year, which was well received. Councillors, the recommendation is to note the results of the survey and to move a motion of thanks to those residents who participated, noting that participating in the survey via phone does take a little bit of time. It's about 10 minutes. So when you add that up, certainly grateful to all of those members of our community who took the time to share their thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, Connor. Councillors, we do have the recommendation there on page 35. Someone to move the motion? Yep. It's moved by Councillor Merriman, seconded Councillor Minty. Councillor Merriman, you have the floor.
At the outset, in the recommendation at point 2, fully support and thank those members of the community that took time to respond to this survey, the 400 people that were surveyed. I think it's a study in itself, and I think it's pleasing that we see changes in the right direction in respect to this result. However, when one examines particularly page 15 of Appendix 4, one would see that in 2016 we were still above 2020 in every category on the overall performance by age group and by groups themselves. So we still have some way to go to catch up with where we were in 2012. However, having said that, it's great to see the change that's occurred over the last 12 months. And again, I can only repeat that I congratulate those people who have been responsible for all of the work that's taken place in that 12 months under consideration, from March last year to March this year. And certainly we have a challenge, as outlined by Connor, to move forward in the next 12 months and see if we can get back and gain more ground. But there's certainly a relief to know that some of the areas where we have been struggling are showing the right turn. I move the motion on that basis.
Thank you, Councillor Merriman. Any other discussion? Councillor Minty?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to also add my thanks to the residents for their vote of encouragement through their responses and basically identifying again perhaps where we as a group have been falling down, and the fact that what they'd like to see from us in the future. I'd also like to add the word councillors into the document at some point, only from my point of view, not as part of the recommendation, so that it would say that although the results for the survey are encouraging, they should be seen as a step in the right direction rather than the end result. And officers and councillors are using these results to positively assess the value of their strategic improvements and identify the next steps. And I think our residents within the borough would like to know that we as councillors are also putting them at the centre of our discussions and our decision-making process, putting them up front rather than us making decisions and them having to come after us where we've made mistakes. Thank you.
Well said. Any other discussion?
No, I think that covered
No.
it nicely.
Councillor Pizzi? I'll just add, if I could, please, just firstly to acknowledge the hard work of our new, relatively new CEO, but also Connor Parker, our comms manager, and obviously all the staff of the Borough of Queenscliff, and obviously that includes all our volunteers as well. We have volunteers who work tirelessly for the Borough of Queenscliff in varying roles, so I certainly wanted to acknowledge all those people that worked very hard to achieve this result. But as my fellow councillors have said, it's great to have the overall direction looking good for council, but this is certainly, we are not there yet. It's just saying, yes, we're on the right track now. We actually need to get there and keep working very hard to achieve that. So thank you very much again to all the officers and councillors for your hard work. Obviously there's a lot more hard work to come. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you. 15.3, review of council policies. Mr. Carruthers, it's yours.
I'm prepared to move that.
Thank you, Mr.
And I
Carruthers.
wish to
That's
make
moved by
one comment on it.
moved by Councillor Merriman, seconded by Councillor Minty. Thank you.
Um,
Councillor Merriman.
It should be noted that the Audit Committee at its recent meeting reviewed both of these policies and supported their adoption. I bring that point to the attention of councillors.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Councillor Minty.
I'd like to just identify two of the important areas, I believe, in the procurement policy. First is the sustainable procurement with the core criteria reduce, reuse and recycle is a very refreshing an important area, I'm sure you'll agree, and also the support of local businesses where possible, with an active policy for small purchases through to the tender for much larger expenditure in this area, where we're looking for, if not a local supplier or services provider, but certainly as a statement of local content, which I think is an important part of the purchasing policy. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 15.4, Implementation Plan 2020-21. Mr Carruthers.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to enable Council to adopt the Borough of Queenscliff Council Draft 2020-2021 Implementation Plan, which is at Appendix 6, with or without modifications, following the community consultation period in accordance with Section 223 of the Local Government Act 1989. The draft implementation plan identifies the key initiatives that Council intends to undertake in the coming year across the 5 strategic objectives that underpin the Council plan. Council has spent considerable time determining the specific initiatives and capital works projects that form the draft implementation plan. Council carefully crafted these priorities and that will enable it to progress the strategic objectives contained in the Council plan. This year, the implementation plan contains objectives and measures related to its functions, in addition to the initiatives described in previous years. The process has involved extensive community consultation, engagement and feedback. The draft implementation plan and budget were also the subject of a live public video conferencing presentation conducted in Queenscliff. The video conference was subsequently available for viewing via the Borough website, as well as advertising and general promotion of the plan seeking public submissions. The Governance and Finance Portfolio Reference Group also reviewed the plan and the budget on the 19th of May 2020. As a result of input received through the engagement period, a small number of minor changes have been made to objectives and measures in the implementation plan. One submission was made on behalf of the Point Lonsdale Civic Association, and we thank them for the time and effort that they put into that submission. While we only made one minor change as a result of the submission, Council accepted and discussed all the comments that were made, and the PLCA will receive a letter addressing their specific suggestions. Having satisfied all the requirements of the Local Government Act, it's appropriate for Council to now resolve to adopt the final draft 2020-2021 implementation plan as presented. The recommendation is in the middle of page 46.
I'll move.
Thank you very much, Mr Carruthers. It's moved by Councillor Merriman, second by Councillor Salter. Do we have any discussion?
No, I think the only point that I'd make is
Councillor Merriman,
reaffirming, thank you, reaffirming the points that have been made by our General Manager. On page 43 of the agenda paper clearly shows the amount of work that the PLCA put into their submission, which should be commended, and the responses are there, and they have been fully considered by Council and Council officers, and I can only repeat that the implementation plan is a study done by our officers over time and endorsed by us, but we thank those, particularly the PLCA, for the contribution they made towards the discussion. In moving the motion, I'm very pleased that we've now come to an implementation plan near conclusion.
Thank you, Councillor Merriman. Any further discussion? Councillor Salter.
I would just like to thank all the members of the community who made comments on implementation plan objectives. It was set out in a slightly different way this year. Well done to the staff who tweaked it. Reflects the good work of our staff, possibly a little influence of our new CEO. It's an interesting document. It's the end of the term of the council, so it washes past us. And congratulations to everyone involved, even if we did learn the difference between wave and wave.
Thank you very, very much, Councillor Salter. Any further discussion? No? All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. So carried. Item 15.5, Budget 2020-21, including our Strategic Resource Plan and Long-Term Financial Plan. Welcome our Manager Financial Service, Mr. Koho Bunji, to run us through it. Thank you. Thank you, Gehan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the purpose of this report is to enable Council to formally adopt the 2021 budget given at Appendix 7A and declare the rates and charges for 2021 year. At the close of public submission in relation to the draft budget, 11 public submissions were received in addition to 2 late submissions. All 13 submissions, including late submissions, were considered by the Council at the Council Assembly on 28th May. 26 new initiatives, ideas have been identified across all these 13 submissions received. Officers have prioritized and considered those new initiatives, ideas in the budget as summarized at Appendix 7B. However, those are still subject to thorough assessment of legislative planning scheme requirements and cost benefit to the community. In summary, 18 new initiatives are to be considered within the existing budget allocation. 1 initiative has received a new budget allocation. 1 initiative to be considered during 2021 reforecast cycles, and 6 new initiatives have been referred for consideration in future budgets. Further, during the exhibition period, Council received additional information which resulted in making some updates to the draft budget. Those amendments are summarized at page 48 to 50 of the agenda. Apart from updates to reflect the shift in timing of some payments and receipts included in the draft budget, key changes are a 4.5 million reduction in the final property valuation from the previous valuation used in finalizing the draft budget. As a result, there have been minor changes to the advertised rates in the dollar values. However, as we know, the change in valuation data only impacts the distribution of the rate across the borough and does not have any impact on the amount of the rates income raised. Savings of 18,000 in waste management charges due to the delays in the rollout of FOGO waste service and the increase in landfill levy. Further, we have made a new budget allocation of 38,000 for a new change pad and reconstruction of the access in front of Winterley Road. This is a new initiative identified in budget submissions. New federal grant funding of 38,000 through local roads and community infrastructure scheme has been earmarked for this project. The budget is consistent with the key direction for rates and charges as outlined in the Council's rating strategy and key strategies included in the Council plan. Key results are tabled at page 51 of the agenda. Even after factoring the full estimated financial impact of the COVID-19 as summarized at page 50 of the agenda, Council has budgeted to achieve its target of a break-even cash result. Further, Council will maintain a cumulative underlying surplus, though an underlying deficit is projected for 2021. In summary, key highlights of 2020 budget are 2% increase in the rates used in full to provide a one-off rebate on waste management charges, 239,000 COVID-19 economic stimulus in addition to 70,000 in 1920, 256,000 net of grants for new operating initiatives, 7.3 million capital projects, mainly capital work carried over from previous years, and borrowings of 569,000. All borrowings included in 2021 budget are carried over from 1920 budget, but forecasted down to 569,000 from 903,000. No additional borrowing is included in 2021 budget. Council has one existing loan which has a current balance of just 28,500. This loan will be paid down in full by September 2021. Again, Council will reassess the funding requirements before making any commitment to borrow money. Management endorses the 2021 budget, including strategic resource plan, long-term financial plan, as financially responsible proposals, which will enable Council to maintain existing services and infrastructure and deliver priority projects and services that are valued by our community. The recommendation before you tonight, councillors, is set out on page 58 of the agenda.
I'll move and
Thank
wish
you.
to speak to it,
Thank
please.
you, Gehan, and congratulations. We've got moved by Councillor Merriman and seconded by Councillor Salter. Councillor Merriman, you wish to speak to the motion?
Firstly, we have seen before us a new process by which our budget has been considered by this council. And again, I commend the work done by our CEO and his officers, and particularly Jihan, who's presented this tonight. And if you look at the agenda paper and commence at page 47, I think you see the steps that have been taken, which come to 11 different dot points covering the period when the consideration first started in October 2019, and here we are tonight having the final budget presented to us on the 18th of June. Significant number of discussions, meetings taken place. Work has been done very, very religiously by our staff to keep presenting to us a whole range of things that are concerning and where we should be going. But having got through to February, early March, of course, we found a change condition. And I think the flexibility of our officers, led by our CEO, to adapt to the change at such short notice, to put forward policies that were in the favour of looking after our ratepayers, and particularly those who are finding it difficult because of the circumstances. To do that at such short notice, to have it out in the public area, and thanks to our communication department for doing that, and then getting the responses that we've had to the amendments that had to be made. And I, again, not only to the general community who made submissions, which were all found in the agenda paper, but to the Governance and Finance Committee that met on the 19th of May, under difficult circumstances because it could not be a face-to-face discussion. But presentations were made, a number of questions were raised. The support of that group is very significant in looking at this budget. I also want to just draw a highlight to the point that was being made already by our officer, and that goes to the current balance of our existing loan. When some of us joined this council, the loan was standing at about 1.4 million, and to get this down now to about 28,000 has been again a significant effort of management to ensure that we are able to not only meet our commitments but beat those commitments. The submissions that have been made are well documented on Appendix 7B, and again you can see the input from the community. Unfortunately, again, we couldn't have face-to-face meetings with the people who wanted to address us in these matters. We worked through the Zoom system, but again, I commend the people who took time out to look at these very lengthy and detailed documentation to make their comments to us. I welcome the responses that have been put together by our officers and endorse them. This budget is a very challenging one, and hopefully with things changing, and hopefully they don't deteriorate in the general public area as a result of the virus. We hope that there can be some pluses come in as caravan parks get opened a little earlier than what was planned in this budget, but we don't count our chickens before they are really hatched. And I can only conclude by recommending this budget to not only the council but to all our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Merriman. Any other, Councillor Salter?
So I would like to congratulate the staff because exactly what Councillor Merriman outlined. We made one budget and we were going along swimmingly and we were feeling like we were so far ahead of the game. Come February, you know, it was all pretty much tied up. And then COVID came and then it was completely rewritten and under enormous pressure, pressure from our whole community who suddenly were in enormous stress, especially our businesses and our retired residents. And it's had to be completely reworked. So enormous congratulations to all the staff because it was an amazing backflip under enormous pressure. So very well done to you all.
Thank you, Councillor Salter. Councillors, any further discussion? No? We have a mover and a second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So moved. Item 16. No reports to consider. 17. Questions without notice. There's no questions without notice outstanding. 17.2. Questions without notice. Councillors, do we have any questions without notice?
I have a question, please.
Yes, Councillor Salter, your question?
Mr Mayor, this question is for you.
Thank you.
Yesterday, you put out a statement about racism. I have to tell you, I stand with you on this matter. Can I ask you to elaborate on what inspired you to make such a statement, please?
Thank you, Councillor Salter. I guess it's obviously we've all seen it not only around the world, but we've also seen it in Australia as well, about the Black Lives Matters and also about racism in our own country. And I've been grappling with it for a couple of weeks about how or what I can say about this. And then I referred back to, we were talking about our motto about being a welcoming harbour for seafarers. And I really, I guess I wanted to just reiterate that this borough is a very welcoming and warm community. We're registered with welcoming refugees to the borough, and we're very proud of that fact. So I really wanted to just go out there and tell people again how important it is for us to remember what it is to be a community member in the borough of Queenscliff. Thank you. Sorry, I hope I wasn't emotional there. No? Thank you. Any other questions without notice? No. Thank you. Item 18, list of council meetings. We have the list there. Planning review meeting if required. Council meeting Thursday the 23rd of July. As with the COVID restrictions, we will continue to live stream till the end of the year, and we'll see what the government says after that. We may be able to do face-to-face council meetings in the future, and if that happens, we'll certainly will let the community know. Thank you. Item 19, recommendation, councillors, that council suspend standing orders and commence in-camera meeting, at which time the meeting will be closed to the members of the public to resolve on matters pertaining to the following items: confirmation of the 21st of May 2020 confidential council minutes. There's a recommendation. Move Councillor Salter, seconded Councillor Pizzi. All those in favour? Thank you.